a
Okay.
potential Rams free agent in Odell Beckham, and then also Von
Oh,
Miller.
yes. Oh, yes. So much
I
to
mean,
talk
like, what
about.
kind of
Yes.
market do we see for those two guys? I mean, it may entirely depend on how they perform down the stretch. If the Rams, stop losing football games, Von had put on some moves. He had a sick spin move against Trent. Oh no, he had a sick power move against Trent Williams. He had a sick spin move over on the left side of the line, or I guess the right side of the line technically, and looked generally awesome. Even though he didn't have, he wasn't like strip sacking Jimmy G or anything, and of course they lost. Odell Beckham had the early miscommunication. What are we calling it? Maybe right? Brady.
Well, even the Mannings said on the Manning cast, and this is per their feelings, that Stafford should never have thrown that
Yeah, you
ball
can't
into
throw that.
double coverage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, based on what he was seeing, let alone the fact that, but I appreciate the attempt and what they were trying to do to make it pop early, get him involved early. So obviously, if that had worked, that would have lit everything on fire. It just, it shouldn't have been a ball that was thrown. And oh, by the way, just touching that really quickly, Matthew Stafford all night just looked like his heart rate was pumping really high, and he wasn't managing it within his head, and those balls were just sailing high. So that was what I was seeing. But going back to what you were saying about OBJ, a couple of things I want to say, just kind of going back to that, because this literally happened like right after we got off, and we talked last Thursday. It was just so interesting because we had just come off, and I just sat down to distribute some of the stuff even on my own show. And then this stuff comes across, and, the conversation was that he was going to wait and what have you. And meanwhile, while you're getting ready for your hits and things like that, players, as I was saying, getting convincing calls, players are calling, you know what I'm saying? Trying to convince them to come, and, and Jalen Ramsey holding up the phone or the FaceTime, and all the receivers saying, yes, come, and all this. So that was taking place. And then now the report comes out, that he's signing there. And then I'm on the phone with him, and he's telling me he's still on the fence. He doesn't know all this other stuff. And then it was still going. And even while certain things were coming out, that he was still saying that, but it was already out. And then LeBron comes and says, welcome this and all that other stuff. And so it was very interesting. I won't go into every detail because obviously not everything is for public consumption, but he's there now. He's happy he's there. Obviously, feels it was the right decision.
I know you're like, I'm not going to go into everything, and I'm immediately going to ask you, like, not to go into everything, but it did feel like the Rams maybe thought, or like the Rams thought.
Oh, no question. No, let me be very unequivocal here. No question. That part I do not care about. No question, it was early. I was on. Listen, I was on the phone, so I know. You know what I'm saying? Right. There's no question, it was early. Nothing.
The Rams thought it was done before Odell thought it was done.
Right? Clear. Well, and it. First of all, obviously, take my word. I was on the phone with them, tweeting on the phone. Obviously, I'm on the phone. But on top of that, the Rams took it down.
Probably some social media or like website managers like, oh my God, I just cost this OBJ and I'm going to get fired. Oh my God. Les Snead's going to come down here and stare at me with those devastatingly handsome eyes, and he's gonna punch me in the face and fire me. But
what was always funny to me is when the reports start coming about, see, we told you did it. Let me just explain something really quickly. Free agency, for people out there, is about the player's decision. This is not a trade where the decision is on the team. So until you hear 1,000% from the player, that's where it rests. There's no other way to go to 100% be sure. That's it.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, he doesn't get to pick. I mean, he does get to pick. Excuse me, Trady doesn't get to pick. Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right. It's not Snead saying, "Oh, it's done." No, not necessarily. Because if you remember, that happened with Jadeveon Clowney a couple years ago, where it was like, "Oh, Tennessee Titans," and then for like the next 12 hours, the Ravens and the Saints were trying to do everything that they could, and it stalled for like 12 hours after that. So you got to make sure you got that 100%. But yes,
it's never done until it's done.
Until it's done.
Is Odell fitting in well though?
He per our conversations, whatever, with what I would share is that definitely wholeheartedly confident in his decision. I feel, even from what I saw on TV in highlights afterwards, because I did fall asleep during the game.
It was
late.
It was
late. Yeah, it was late. But I saw. But but just from covering him since he's with the Giants, and I saw after the game how he walked on the field and was giving everybody hugs, and not that is like strange or anything, but particularly so because I thought it was just even more demonstrating of what was his true spirit, which is what he said after the game, like didn't go the way he wanted to go, but ready to get back into work and start acclimating. And that is truly how he feels. Like he doesn't stress over that stuff, like in comparison to his earlier days. He really doesn't. So that is a real sentiment. He's not like, putting on.
I love it. Those are, my adopted Rams. I want Odell to come in and have an impact in Stafford to blow up and
but Will, that defense, yo. I don't know what was happening.
It did not show up.
I was like,
49ers just brought their A game too. Like,
D'Amico Ryans had those dudes ready to play.
Yes,
what's my man's name? Because I learned more about him in watching the 49ers. I think it's Al-Shair Aziz or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm saying the name wrong. But what he was playing, he came out there with his alpha style, ready to throw some wood down, and I was so impressed with.
Aziz Al-Shair. Al-Shair.
I love that name, Al-Shair. Yeah. It just sounds like you come in, and with your presence. I love that. You know what I'm saying? I love that.
Yes. Announcing yourself with
your name, and I just noticed that D'Amico had those boys playing, but I just felt like the middle. I was so surprised. I even tweeted about it, how they were just running through like water, and I was like, "Oh, these boys have to get back to the tackling, the angles."
Rams had too much of their own. Too much of their own press and free agency, right? And trading.
Yeah, we've got to get off a little bit of the Hollywood atmosphere.
That's right. Too much Hollywood.
And get back to the blue collar.